Hello, we're into the last 10 days of the People's Voice appeal, which has just been beyond anything we could have imagined in terms of public interest and public support and donations to this non-profit making effort to bypass the mainstream media and produce a 24-hour global uncensored source of information and covering subjects that the mainstream media won't cover or covers in an extremely biased way. It's funny that we've reached this amazing stage in the donation figure through people giving small amounts, relatively small amounts, some a little bit more than small amounts. And, you know, in many ways, that's a fantastic thing because it is the people's station. Like I say, it's non-profit making, it's there so the information can be the star, not shareholders or anyone else. And therefore, it's a really good thing that lots and lots of people all over the world are giving what little they can at this time of great economic challenge for enormous numbers of people. And it's that challenge, that injustice of the distribution of wealth that we want to use the station to really highlight and question and put in the spotlight those that are behind it. But in the same way, I've met so many people over the years for whom the entire figure to put the People's Voice on the air, not just on the air, but in a way, on a scale that we really want to make happen to challenge the mainstream media in terms of technology and speed of response and everything else. So many over the years for whom the whole figure to put that together and on air would be around the drinks, basically. They wouldn't miss it. But those people have not donated, and it is interesting that it's the people with far less that tend to give rather than those with far more for whom it would be nothing. They wouldn't miss it. Strange kind of psychological situation. We've had people saying, well, you know, we would, but, you know, we'd like to invest in it. Well, invest in terms of a return. Well, there ain't going to be a return. I mean, you know, I was one of the two people with Sean that got this idea together. And I'm going to do everything, not just now, but ongoing into the future for nothing. Because there ain't going to be any investment return. The investment we're talking about in the People's Voice is an investment in justice, in fairness, in peace, in bypassing media censorship so the information reaches the public without being censored or spun, and an investment in not just our children and grandchildren, though it's certainly that, in terms of the world they will live in unless we sort this nonsense out, but also an investment in our own future, because this is not something somewhere over the rainbow. This is happening now, today. Every day it moves on. And there is this, against that, fantastic awakening going on, where people are becoming more and more aware that the world is not like they thought it was, and that the powers that appear to be, in theory, serving the public interest are actually doing the opposite. It's about enslaving people, not setting them free. It's about making them poor and destitute, not giving them abundance. Because we live in this inverted, topsy-turvy world. And once we realize that, we start to get a grip on actually what the motivation of those in power really is. So I'll just say this to those who are abundant in funds and have said to me over the years, well, yeah, I hear what you say, but what can we do? What we're challenging here through the free flow of information is not to stop those already targeted by the system, those already suffering from austerity and poverty, though we're certainly going to do that. But the whole idea of the way the world is going is to have a mega rich, tiny few. People call it the 1%. At its peak, it's far less than even that. And the rest of the people in mass poverty, serving that tiny few. And therefore, when you look at what happened in Cyprus, with the bank accounts of people raided, stolen directly, because the politicians wouldn't bail out those Cyprus banks, that was just the first stage, or the first step of a new stage, to go beyond taking vast amounts of money from the mass of the people via governments to the rich through banking bailouts via governments, and to go to the next stage of taking vast amounts of money from the masses of the people, not even through governments, but direct to the rich via raiding their bank accounts. And so if you think you have a lot of money and therefore I'm okay, this doesn't apply to me, if you're not in the club, if you're not in that tiny less than 1% that is orchestrating this whole deal of global manipulation, global centralization, then they want your money too. So we need to come together here. And the more that we can gather for this non-profit making the people's voice, the more effective we will be from the first day on air. And the more we will be able to expose the story to more and more people who can see, hey, the world's not like I thought it was, and I can see why they do this now and that now and that now. Yes, because they're not serving you, the people. They're serving the tiny cabal, the less than 1%. And we started out looking for £100,000, but as I emphasised at the time, that was the absolute minimum that would have got us on air with some form of communication. If we can get to 300,000 in what's left of this appeal, or more, then we will get more than on air. We will have the technology and the people that can absolutely make a difference in exposing what is currently in the mainstream media unexposed. And it's not just money that can make us do this and allow us to do this. We also need practical help. And we are now in the process of putting a structure together of people which can handle the extraordinary amount of interest in the people's voice that we're now enjoying, but it's overwhelming in many ways, because this has touched a chord. This is something. Its time has come. You can see that in the interest and the enthusiasm for it. So what we're looking for, as well as the essential staff that will be paid to run the station ongoing, because it's 24 hours a day, we need lots of volunteers, like I'm a volunteer. We need researchers. We need editors, videotape editors. We need producers. We need people who work in the office and run that kind of administration side of the whole thing. And in terms of programs and program presenters and program ideas, we'll be coming to that in some detail towards the end of July. Between now and the end of July, what we're going to focus on is getting that structure in place so that we have an organization that can cope with this interest. And then we're going to go into programming big time. But even though I say that, that is already happening. We're planning three 3-hour live programs every day, every weekday, from the United Kingdom and from the United States. We also have weekend live programs which will respond to things happening during the weekend, but also be able to look at the world in a more retrospective way. And we have got some really great people on board who are going to give us weekly programs from around the world. Mike Adams from naturalnews.com does some great stuff in the area of health and exposing the pharmaceutical industry, etc. He's going to be doing a weekly program. An old friend of mine, Robert Perella in California, he lives in an area where lots of very interesting and relevant people are passing through all the time. There's lots of conferences in that area which draws people in like that. And he's going to be doing a weekly program for us, talking to the people with something of great interest and relevance to say. And we've got Max Egan, great bloke from Australia, who will be broadcasting from there and also anywhere else he is in the world. So it's all beginning to move, and we have also Sonia Poulton, a mainstream journalist in Britain, who, you know, like all genuine, proper journalists, and she is, has been frustrated and all the things that you would be if you were a proper journalist and the media you're working in is saying you can't do that, you can't say that, you can't interview him, you can't interview her, you can't investigate this. And what is going to happen with Sonia, who will be presenting one of the major 3-hour live shows every day, is that all those constraints, all those balls and chains, all those limitations, all those you can'ts will be removed. And she is going to be fantastic. She's going to break a lot of stories that wouldn't normally get into the mainstream media. So we're moving in all directions, but I'll come back with the whole program side of it towards the end of July. In this next stage, the money that will be given will go to buy editing technology. This is so important because we're going to be dealing with so much visual information, and we're going to have to get it edited and put together, often very quickly, because once it's appeared on the People's Voice, if it's relevant and people of a wider number need to see it or hear it, it will immediately be going on the internet as a package and circulated on the internet in general, not just on the People's Voice. And thus we need lots of editing equipment, as well as editors, to keep that process going. So thanks to everyone who's donated. It's been an amazing response. We've got, well, we're in the last third now. And if we can keep going at this rate, then come a few months from now, then we will be making a serious difference in terms of challenging the suppression and challenging the censorship and showing what real journalism looks like. Thanks for everything.